There is something buried in the ground that should not exist, and scientists just found it. This is going to sound insane, but the evidence is real. For a long time, researchers thought they had mapped the entire ancient human family tree. There was Neanderthal, there was Homo sapiens, and then there was everyone else who came before. That was the story. It was clean. It was simple. It was wrong. In 2008, a team of archaeologists was working in a cave system in southern Siberia. The site is called Denisova Cave. It sits in the Altai Mountains, a remote region where Russia, China, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia meet. The cave had already yielded Neanderthal bones. It had yielded stone tools. It looked like a standard excavation until a graduate student pulled out a single bone. A finger bone. The distal phalanx of the pinky finger of a young girl. It was small enough to fit on a thumbnail. It was roughly 40,000 years old, and it looked completely unremarkable to the naked eye. The bone was catalogued, stored, and nearly forgotten. It sat in a drawer for months before anyone thought to test it. But here is where it gets genuinely strange. The bone was sent to the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig. A team led by geneticist Svante Pääbo extracted ancient genetic material from it. This was not unusual. They had sequenced Neanderthal genomes before. They knew what ancient hominin genetic code looked like. They ran the analysis once. They ran it again. They checked the equipment. The data did not change. The genetic sequence did not match Neanderthals. It did not match modern humans. It did not match any known hominin in the scientific record. It matched nothing. Pääbo and his team spent months verifying the result. They ran control samples. They tested for contamination. They sequenced the bone from multiple extractions. Every time, the same result appeared. A genome that belonged to no known branch of the human family tree. The team published their results in Nature in 2010. A study led by researcher David Reich confirmed what the data had already shown. They had found a new group of ancient humans. They called them the Denisovans, named after the cave where the single bone was found. Try to understand what this means. A single population of ancient humans was discovered from one tiny finger bone. No skull, no full skeleton, no cave paintings or tools that anyone had recognized as belonging to a separate species. A fingertip. That was all it took to rewrite human history, and that is not even the part that surprised paleoanthropologists. Scientists did not expect this. Neither will you. When researchers compared Denisovan genetic code to living humans today, they found something that rewrote the entire migration story. Denisovan genes are present in modern populations across Asia and Oceania. In some groups in Papua New Guinea and Australia, up to 6% of the genome comes from Denisovans. That is a significant fraction. It means that when Homo sapiens left Africa and encountered Denisovans in Asia, they did not just fight or flee. They interbred. They exchanged genes. They became part of each other, and those genes are still inside you, if your ancestry traces through that part of the world. Think about it this way. A population of ancient humans that scientists did not even know existed was living alongside your ancestors for thousands of years. They shared campsites. They shared children. They shared a world that we are only now beginning to understand. Keep that number in mind. It becomes important later. Now hold that thought, because what happens next changes everything. For years, the Denisovans were known from only that one finger bone and a few teeth. Then in 2019, a team led by researcher Dongju Zhang announced a discovery that pushed the story into completely new territory. They had found a Denisovan jawbone, not in a cave, not in Siberia, on the Tibetan plateau, at an altitude of over 10,000 feet. A population of ancient humans had lived and adapted to one of the most extreme environments on Earth, and researchers had no idea they were there. This is where the story stops making sense, and then starts making too much sense. In 2020, scientists studying Denisovan proteins learned something even more specific. The Tibetan Denisovan jawbone showed that this population had already evolved a genetic adaptation to low oxygen levels, the same adaptation that lets modern Tibetans survive at high altitude. The Denisovans had it first. Thousands of years before Homo sapiens arrived in the region, the adaptation did not come from us. It came from them. We inherited it. Here is what your textbook left out. The scientists who studied this adaptation traced it to a specific gene. This gene controls how your body responds to low oxygen. In modern Tibetans, A variant of this gene allows them to live normally at elevations where most people would develop altitude sickness. The variant is Denisovan. It entered the Homo sapiens gene pool through interbreeding, and it stayed because it was useful. This means that an ancient human population, identified from a single finger bone, gave modern humans one of their most important survival tools. And no one predicted it. The implications are still unfolding. In 2023, a study published in Nature Ecology and Evolution identified Denisovan genetic contributions to immune function in modern populations across Asia and Oceania. The ancient genes helped fight off pathogens that Homo sapiens had never encountered before leaving Africa. This is not a footnote. It is a recurring pattern. Every time researchers look for Denisovan genetic code in modern humans, they find something unexpected. The list of inherited traits keeps growing. So why does this matter? Because the answer rewrites what we thought humans could do. Consider what it took to make this discovery. The finger bone was found in 2008. The genome was published in 2010. That is 2 years from a single small bone to the identification of an entirely new ancient human population. The technology that made this possible did not exist 10 years earlier. Ancient genetic sequencing improved so rapidly that a discovery that would have been impossible in the 1990s became routine in the 2010s. The Denisovans were discovered not because scientists were looking for them. They were discovered because the technology finally caught up to the questions. The Denisovans represent a chapter of human history that was written entirely in ancient genetic material. No one predicted their existence from the fossil record. No one expected a single finger bone to reveal a third major population of ancient humans living alongside Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. The textbooks had to be rewritten, and they are still being rewritten right now. But the real discovery was not what they found in the ground. It was what it means about how humans survived at all. Homo sapiens did not conquer the world alone. We walked into territories already occupied by other ancient humans. We exchanged genes with them. We inherited traits from them. The Denisovan altitude adaptation. Neanderthal immune genes, strands of ancient genetic code that helped us survive in places our African ancestors were never built for. Every human alive today who is not of purely African descent carries between 1% and 6% Neanderthal or Denisovan genetic material. That is not a trace. That is a substantial inheritance from ancient humans you never met. You carry some of that genetic material right now. Every time you breathe at high altitude without thinking about it. Every time your immune system reacts to something your ancestors never encountered in Africa. That is an ancient human you never met. Still inside you. Still working. Fast forward to today. The implications of the Denisovan discovery go far beyond one cave in Siberia. Researchers are now finding Denisovan genetic markers in populations across South America, in East Asia, in island Southeast Asia. In places where the migration maps said there should be nothing. The maps were wrong. The Denisovan discovery also changed how scientists think about human migration. Before 2010, the dominant model said that Homo sapiens left Africa in a single wave roughly 60,000 years ago. The Denisovan genetic signal in modern populations does not fit that model. It suggests multiple waves of migration. It suggests encounters with different ancient human groups in different regions. It suggests a story far more complex than a single exit from Africa. The leading explanation is that Homo sapiens encountered Denisovans in at least 2 separate regions, once in Eastern Asia, and once in island Southeast Asia. Each encounter left a different genetic signature. Each signature tells a different story about how humans moved across the planet. And here is the part that should make you uncomfortable. If a single finger bone could reveal an entirely unknown population of ancient humans, how many other populations are still buried? How many other chapters of human history are waiting in a drawer of unexamined fossils? The Denisovan discovery proved that what we know about human origins is still incomplete, and that is both unsettling and extraordinary. You were taught it happened one way. It did not, and now you know why. The fossil record showed us the bones, but ancient genetic code showed us the story we could not see, and that story is far more tangled than any textbook ever suggested. Here is the part nobody talks about. The Denisovans are not completely extinct. A version of them still exists. In you, in millions of people alive today, their genetic code did not vanish. It was absorbed. It was carried forward. It became part of what you are. A Denisovan lived at over 10,000 feet without getting winded. You get winded climbing a flight of stairs. Their genes are inside you. Maybe use them, so be honest. Did you learn this version in school or the wrong one? Drop a 1 if this changed something you thought you already knew about human history. If this landed, share it with someone who thinks the ancient human past is fully understood. It is not. The Denisovan discovery proved that one-finger bone can rewrite everything. And there are probably more discoveries waiting in caves, bones, and genetic sequences that no one has looked at yet. The next unknown population might be sitting in a museum drawer somewhere, labeled as something else, waiting for someone to ask the right question. There is another video that explains what almost wiped humanity out entirely, and it is worth your time. If you want more of this, the kind of thing that makes the ancient past feel closer than you think, subscribe. That is all it takes.